my man Shannon and his interview with comedian and Oscar award-winning star Monique, because he did a sit-down with her for his club Shay Shay podcast recently, and to say that it was a bit similar to Cat Williams, it was in this regard.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Real Talk with Darius. I'm Darius, your host. Remember to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. We're going to be listening to Stephen A. Smith, who works for ESPN. He's a sports analyst. He also has his own show, the Stephen A. Smith Show. And so what he's doing is reacting to a video that Shannon Sharp, interview that Shannon Sharp had with his guest, Monique. I forget her last name right now. Forgive me for that. But anyway, she's a well-known comedian, well-known actress, but she's faced some great challenges over the past number of years. And so, anyway, let's see what he has to say. She said some very controversial things. She has been a controversial figure, and I personally believe her stance, at least in large part, is correct.
I'm going to transition from this to a subject that's going on right now that's percolating. And I'm going to revisit it a little bit later on in the show, but I'm going to start the conversation now. And it's going to be an extreme left turn from the world of sports to the world of pop culture and entertainment. And that would be my man Shannon Sharp and his interview with comedian and Oscar award-winning star Monique, because he did a sit-down with her for his club Shay Shay podcast recently, and to say that it was a bit similar to Cat Williams, it was in this regard. It was 3 hours long. Cat Williams' interview with Club Shay Shay was nearly 3 hours long. Not only was it 3 hours long, it involved a lot of ridicule, a lot of calling out, and to be quite honest with you, it highlighted a lot of issues that are going on in the comedic world yet again. And some would say it's taken an extreme turn where it's so tinged with negativity, it's made folks, particularly in the Black community, uncomfortable. Now, to give you an example of the kind of thing that I'm alluding to, I want you to listen right now to Monique sitting down with Shannon Sharp, and in this instance, talking about superstar comedic individual, Mr. Kevin Hart. Listen to this.
I said, good shit, Kevin, because we're in a deal with Endemol, and we're trying to get our talk show back. Mo, whatever it is, I got you. Now, Kevin Hart is one of the biggest entertainers right now in the world,
Correct.
right? And was then. We got off the phone with Kevin Hart. We called Endemol immediately and said, Kevin Hart said, whatever we want to do, he got us. He's going to partner executive use. They was like, oh, this is incredible, because when you put Kevin Hart name on it, you already know what it is.
Correct.
2 weeks go by. We get a call from Endemol. Endemol says, we just got a call from Kevin Hart's manager, Dave Becky. And Dave Becky said, Kevin doesn't want anything to do with Monique. So whatever she told y'all, he doesn't want to do anything with her, nothing. You know, he doesn't want any kind of relationship with Monique.
So what transpired, or what do you think transpired between then, that 2 week period?
I called Kevin Hart immediately. I said, hey, baby, we just got off the phone with Endemol, and they said Dave Becky called them up and said, you don't want anything to do with me. He said, Mo, that's a miscommunication. I can tell you right now. I said, wait a minute. Are you okay, though, with this white man calling them up? Getting in between our relationship after something you said. He said, Mo, that's a miscommunication, and we're going to talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you right now, it's a miscommunication. That was 2 years ago. If you talk to him, I talk to him. I've never talked back to Kevin Hart again.
Before I go any further, that wasn't the only person she talked about. She talked about Steve Harvey. She talked about Oprah Winfrey. She talked about Tyler Perry, amongst others. And not only did she do that, She also spoke about Taraji B. Henson. Remember recently, Taraji B. Henson made news because she was tearful, talking about being underpaid as a Hollywood star, a black female actress. And she became very emotional and very transparent in her frustration and alluded to some things in regards to Oprah and others. And Monique in the past has pounced on that opportunity, and certainly she didn't hesitate to do so here. Here is what she said, alluding to Oprah Winfrey when talking about Taraji B. Henson's and her dilemma. Take a look. So when you see our sister go through that, you see her go through, and we act like our eyes didn't see what it saw when we watched that promotion happen with the color purple.
Right.
We wanted to act like we didn't see how Oprah Winfrey treated Taraji. In my humble opinion, when you saw her walk up, you saw that there was tension. You saw that there was something happening.
Right.
And then when you see Taraji write her a love letter, it's like, listen, we got to stand tall and stand strong on what we know. We know you were mistreated. We know it wasn't right. We know it was unfair. And then you turn around and say, oh, but Lady O handled it. I have a problem with that. Now, here's the deal.
Before Steven gets on his deal, I just want to say real quick. Now, I did a video. You can go and check it out. It wasn't about the entire interview that Cat Williams had with Shannon Sharp, but I gave my take on some of the things he said. Now, I've been following Cat on and off a bit over the years. I don't follow a whole lot of comedy, especially when it gets raunchy and they get to cussing and stuff, because I'm a kingdom citizen. And so there's certain things. That means I'm a child of God. I'm a Christian. And I don't like certain types of language, or at least too much of it. It's hard to get away from it these days, but or to censor everything. But nevertheless, I listen to some things that involves that. But anyway, he started putting some people on blast. And the people don't, in the world, some people love it and some don't. And so anyway, she is being... Monique is being, and I said I forgot her last name. The reason I forgot her last name is because we don't call her by that, because I'm so used to I've known her by her stage name, which is Monique. But her offstage name is Monique Hicks, just for context. But anyway, she is being called or being compared to Cat Williams as the sister to, or the female Cat Williams, because as I heard, I think she said in the interview with Shannon, Fat Williams, not Cat Williams, but Fat Williams. So anyway, one of the things I've noticed about the opening of this year, the beginning of this year, is there's a lot of what I call truth exposures going on. And so I've learned that is, in my observation, and then I'll go and get that Stephen A. get to his point. In my observation, we as a people have been so conditioned, the people at large, the general population has been so conditioned to scrutinize the truth rigorously, but willingly and readily accept either lies and or partial truths. Now, only you can determine which side of the aisle you are on in that regard, but that's what I have observed in general. People push back real quick when the truth comes out, and people get offended real easy, real quick. But if you lie to people, if you, in general, I'm speaking, okay? If you lie to somebody or you give them partial truth, people seem to be okay with that. And I don't care what color you are. I don't care what color or ethnicity you claim or that you are. That should not be a part of our pedigree. So anyway.
Before I go to break, let me say something. This is not a comfortable conversation for me. In the interest of full disclosure, Cat Williams has always been cool with me, always been a gentleman when I've met him. Steve Harvey is a friend and a brother. Kevin Hart is a friend and a brother. I don't know Cedric the Entertainer that well, but I've known him well enough where I've interviewed him several times over the years, and we are very friendly with one another. I once had the pleasure of being interviewed on Monique's show where she had her own show, Monique, on BET when I was a guest there many years ago. And I've been a long time admirer of her work, her artistry. She is a brilliant talent, both comedically and just overall as an actress. She is spectacular. And what has happened to her, or what appears to have happened to her, what she believes has happened to her, in terms of being blackballed, in terms of being pigeonholed and marginalized, it's not comfortable to hear. It's not comfortable to watch. I don't like it at all. I root for her. But the first order of business that I'm going to do before I get in to the specifics of everything that they've had to say is I'm going to say this. It's become problematic. And somebody has to say it, so I'm going to say it. It's become problematic for black people. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. It's starting to look really, really bad. And some would say, Stephen A., what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean start? We've been making ourselves look bad for quite some time.
Real talk.
Now, for those athletes out there, former athletes, you know, because the people that tried to look at me and would sit up there and would say, Stephen A., you know, selling out, seller, I can't stand this, blah, 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 blah. Bump them. They full of it. You were performing on a court or the field of play. I called you out for your performance, and that was that. That wasn't black on black crime. If you are a player and you're getting kicked by somebody who's dropping 40 or 50 on you, and I call it out, and that person happens to be black, how am I knocking down my community because I point out the fact that you put your talents on public display, is getting your ass kicked. Now, it's my obligation to point out that you're getting your ass kicked, and that's all that happened. That ain't selling out.
Nope.
That's covering sports.
Right.
And you happen to be somebody who's chosen to participate in sports in a public forum who didn't live up to what people's expectations were. And we talking to somebody, I mean, it could be Kwame Brown, it could be T.O., it could be somebody. I talked sports. I didn't get into anybody's personal life, characterizing and castigating anybody. That's not selling out. That's doing my job of covering sports. It's not Monique's job to do what she's just done, what she just did.
Now, I disagree with some of this part where he's about to get into, because there is a time and a place to do things. Here's the problem. How long are truths, real issues lurking, you know, in the shadows? You have kids who've been, when they become adults, who were either ostracized, they were not believed because they were molested. They tried to tell an trusted adult, an adult they trusted, and they got shut down. So how long are they supposed to hold the issues that they have to go through? When are they supposed to basically ask for or demand justice? Maybe not hate on the perpetrators, people who've been lied to, the family secret that's been going on for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, when does it stop? And on top of it, what if you can't address the persons in question? They don't want any time with you. It has affected you, and it has affected your loved ones. There's a time, you know, a wise man once said that when you're addressing someone that's a part of your community, okay, there's a 3-step process. You go to them and see if you can go ahead and y'all can talk it out and come to some form of agreement and get that thing fixed. And if that doesn't work, then you take them to leadership, to have someone mediate so that y'all can go ahead and see if you can get that issue handled. And if that doesn't work, they get cut off from that community. They get cut off. Why? Because somebody didn't want to get their act together. So I think that's a pretty viable solution to said problem. So I don't know if they went through all of those channels based on, I watched the entire interview on Club Shay Shay, and I'm not trying to plug him, but I'm gonna give it out to him anyway. He's doing some pretty good shows. Um, because especially in the black community, it's it's egregious to me how blacks don't want to be seen as snitches because they're trying to protect one another. So they'll let all kinds of crimes and stuff go. They don't deal with stuff. Like for example, I'm gonna say this real quick, and then I'm gonna get back to the show. In Chicago, for example, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if you for any Chicagoans who'll be watching this video, but I haven't seen any public pressers, that is, any press conferences where the citizens stepped up nationally. Now, I live in Texas, so I don't live nowhere near Chicago, but I haven't seen any pressers come out where nearly practically every week there's shots happening. I'm sure in a lot of black neighborhoods, people being killed, and the citizens demanding of their mayors to shut down this crime, to do something about it. But you got all these migrants now infringing upon their territory. Now people are getting tired and restless, and they have something to say because these are outsiders. It's the same thing, in my opinion. It's the same thing as blaming cops for everything. Black on black crime, no problem. Don't talk about it. Stuff happened amongst family and whatever. But someone on the outside step in and do something. Now, to me, wrong is wrong. I don't care. Wrong is wrong, period. I'm a man of justice. I'm a man of truth. I'm a man of standards. Truth, if people are being given opportunity to step up and handle their business, but if there is a boundary, there's a cutoff point. I don't know what that is in everybody's situation, but I'm just saying there's a cutoff point. You have to deal with these issues, okay? So I disagree with what Stephen A is about to say in this regard, simply because Monique has been basically saying the same thing for a long time. She tried to make amends with give those involved, the people that she named, an opportunity to make things right, and they haven't. And so she, in my opinion, is doing the right thing.
It wasn't Cat Williams' job to do what he did on Club Shay Shay weeks ago.
Why don't you
that
just
now
have
has over 68 million views?
Yes, well, why don't you invite them on your show, Stephen A? And y'all talk about
it
that.
It wasn't their job to call out Kevin Hart and Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, Ricky Smiley, Michael Blackson, Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry. It wasn't their job. That was a choice.
Yeah, but it was also a choice not to say anything.
A choice that extended far beyond the corridors of their job.
But you don't know how long it's been going on.
That now has Black America taking sides.
Once again, listen, when you have a choice between truth and untruths, justice and injustice, all sides are always going to be taken. The truth always comes to divide those who are on the side of truth and those who are not. It's just that simple.
And looking.
Oh, no matter what color you are, no matter what culture, no matter what class, when it comes down to brass tacks, so to speak, truth will always divide and point out who's who.
At one another with an elevated level of skepticism and disgust, while having others outside of our community look at us that way as well. And that's a subject that we're going to tackle on the Stephen A. Smith Show today. We're not running from this. We're going to talk about it. Whether it's Monique, it's Cat Williams, or even if it's my brother, Shannon Sharp for Club Shay Shay. I got a lot to say. A whole lot. It's about time that it gets addressed in a manner that it deserves. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. As promised, it's time to tackle a subject that I will openly confess I'm not very comfortable tackling. Because I understand where people are coming from, and I don't want to give any extra shine to whatever perspective they have on Mr. Shannon Sharp himself, but I have no choice. Now, some people would ask the question, why is that? He's a grown Man, so are you. He's doing his thing, you're doing your thing. I will remind you that Shannon Sharp is a major contributor to my daytime job, which is First Take on ESPN. And to be quite honest with you, we've grown to become friends. I got a lot of love for the brother. I respect the hell out of him. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He's a Hall of Famer. And the reality is that he's doing big things. You can say what you want, but 68 million views for the Cat Williams interview is 68 million views. The first order of business with Monique in this interview in day one, with it being 5 million views, ladies and gentlemen, that's over 73 million views. You can say whatever you want to say. You just can't take away from that reality and what Shannon Sharp has brought to the table. The flip side to that, however, is that when you do interviews of this nature, we've heard noises emanating from our community because both of us are black men. I'm from the North, New York City. He's from the South. It doesn't matter. As black men, as brothers, as black people, what Dion Cole alluded to on numerous occasions in terms of negativity selling, in terms of us going after one another, what Chris Spencer alluded to when he talked about how nobody does this to one another but black people, it's inescapable. It's a reality. And so as a result of that, I have to answer questions because people have literally asked me, Stephen A., what do you think about how Shannon Sharp interviewed Cat Williams and Monique? What do you think about the pushback or lack thereof? Why give somebody the platform to come out on your show and say all the things that they've said? I'd be lying if I said those were not legitimate questions. I'd also be remiss in neglecting to inform you that I personally asked Shannon Sharp to come on this podcast and discuss it. To his credit, although he's not here, he was willing to come on. He just had other commitments because he knows I'm his brother and I'm not trying to backdoor him. And I'm going to say something that a lot of people are not going to like. I don't believe that Shannon Sharp is just an entertainer. I believe he's a voice. He's a voice in our community that is elevating by the day. He matters. And because he matters, with that level of significance and cachet comes a level of responsibility, some would say. But when you do it to the point where you're trying to act as if he shouldn't have them as guests, or somehow, some way, he could have curtailed or edited out what they've said, I'm not going to go that far. Shannon Sharp is under no obligation to edit or alter genuine thoughts that his guests have on his shows. If that's how they feel, that's how they feel. Now, would I have been a little bit different? Sure, because I'm a trained journalist. And as a result, the level of pushback that I would give, I'm seasoned and trained to do it, spanning 30 years. When Shannon Sharp was on Club Shay Shay, or Nightcap rather, weeks ago, and he said to Chad Ochocinco during one of his telecasts, I'm not Ed Bradley, the late Ed Bradley, God rest his soul. I'm not 60 Minutes. I'm not 48 Hours. I'm an entertainer. My only retort to him was that you're not just an entertainer, you're a voice.
Right.
And take that voice.
Pardon me for stepping away a moment. I had to put my dogs up so they wouldn't disturb my recording. I have two terrier mixed dogs. One a medium-sized dog by the name of Peace. My other one, his name is Prince. Yes. I've been getting some comical responses to that. Prince and Peace, or Prince of Peace. So anyway, I just put them away so they wouldn't disturb us. Anyway, I agree. Shannon, it's not just, we should not be putting those labels on ourselves saying I'm just this or I'm just that.
Into consideration whenever you do whatever it is that you do, so you're never telling somebody that you're just an entertainer. Because you're more than that. Outside of that, I have a very, very, very difficult time looking at the day and age that we're living in. seeing 68 million views here, 5 million views there, over 73 million views for just 2 interviews, and asking somebody to ignore the significance of that, knowing most people wouldn't. Because that's being full of shit. That's not being authentic. Most people wouldn't ignore that. Now, again, I would have pushed back on Cat Williams on several things. Because the personal in which he went about the business of highlighting his attacks and illuminating his attacks against Kevin Hart, against Steve Harvey, against Ricky Smiley, Cedric the Entertainer, Michael Blackson, and others, or I would have wanted receipts. I would have had to dig a little. I would have had to dig a little more.
But see, that's just the point. That's why Cat say he went on. Not that he won't come on Stephen A's show, but that's why he went on Shannon's shows, because Shannon had developed a reputation of actually letting his guests talk. Now, not just talk foolishly. Some people still think those are foolish comments or whatever, but you got to create an environment where people can feel comfortable sharing things that they know they're going to get attacked for anyway. And in most of the time, not every time, but most of the time, it's the truth. People get lied to all the time. How in the world do we not see that? Why do we not appreciate and stand and say, listen, I'm tired of in the world, from the government to the media to family to friends to even yourself, why doesn't truth reign? Why is truth constantly criticized, scrutinized? You got to do all kinds of, now I'm not saying don't do it, but you got to do all kinds of probing, all kinds of research to make sure this is the truth. You hardly ever do that about a lie, though. It generally speaking, okay? I'm not saying this applies to everybody. And I'm not saying this about Stephen A. I'm saying in general. This is why rumors fly. This is why partial truths fly. But when it comes to truth, here's the other question. Why is 73 million, probably nearly 80 million people now interested in these conversations? It's because people don't have real conversations anymore. There's a lot of garbage out there. There's a lot of perceived real conversations out there, but there's not real conversations because people get into their feelings. Once people get into their feelings, there's not much more to say.
It's just me. That's just me. Steve Harvey's a friend. Kevin Hart's a friend. If they came on this show right now and they were talking about Cat Williams in the fashion that Cat Williams talked about them, I would have grilled them.
Please. Cat said
when you sit in front of this.
Cat Williams said he had receipts. He said he would not. Listen to this. Go back if you want to. I encourage you to. It was a really good conversation. Go back to the Cat Williams conversation with, and I do call them both interviews and conversations with Shannon Sharp. Cat Williams says, and I'm almost going to say verbatim, but almost quote him verbatim, but no. He says, how could I sit here with this much confidence saying what I say if I don't have the receipts? So sure, invite him on your show. It's not about you trying to compete. Not in this case. And again, there are much bigger and much broader conversations that still need to be had in this country because, hey, the conversations about nuclear war and World War III it is the top of conversation right now. We have a migrant crisis going on in this country right now, the U.S. of A. There's an invasion happening on our watch. But there's conversations that need to be had all the way around. Conversations around the dinner table. Conversations at the coffee table. Conversations, pillow talk. There are real conversations that need to be had, and people are afraid of that. Just call it what it is. Some people are more brash about it. Some aren't. Many aren't. There are people who do not like the appearance of conflict or confrontation. So let us be careful. Let's understand that part too. But those conversations need to be had.
This microphone in front of this camera, my belief is that in pursuit of truth, you have to be objective. Now, you can be subjective once you receive the truth about how you receive it, how you interpret it, how your perspective is, and what you disseminate to the masses. That's fair. But in pursuit of the truth, the objectivity has to come reigning through.
I agree with that.
There are people who feel Like Shannon Sharp didn't do that. I respectfully disagree. I think he just did it differently than most. When Steve Harvey came on his show, they said what they wanted to say.
Right.
When Cedric the Entertainer came on his show, they said what they wanted to say. When Cat Williams came on the show, he said what he wanted to say.
Right.
When Monique came on the show, she said what she wanted to say. We don't know what level of veracity and truth is attached to any of their words or lack thereof, and we have to be real and authentic in that regard. But when somebody wants me to get at Shannon Sharp, it's not happening. I'm going to support my brother. Even if I think he's wrong, I'm still going to say it, but I'm going to support him anyway. Meaning letting him know I'm always going to look out. But in this particular instance, I think the ire is being pointed in the wrong direction. So many people want to sit up there and talk about, people were famous for doing this to me, coming to me and having expectations they wanted to heap on my shoulders. Why? Because guess what? Now you in this position, Stephen A. But what the hell did you do to get me here? When I was scratching and clawing and climbing my way to this position, where were you then?
Real talk.
You didn't do anything for me then, but when I got there, all of a sudden I owe you and us something. Because I'm in a place you ain't. Nah, I'm not going for that. So in that regard, I'm not going to engage in condemnation. But I did feel a need and an obligation to comment because so much stuff is being said about this man that works with me 2 days a week on ESPN's First Take. And I had to let everybody know where I stood about the man that I brought in to sit across from me 2 days a week. And that's where I stand with that. I'm not saying I agree with everything. I'm certainly not saying I would have done things the way that he's done it. I'm not saying that somebody would come on my platform and have 3 hours to say anything. I don't talk for 3 hours, so I damn sure ain't let nobody else talk for 3 hours. So we're different in that regard. But I ain't throwing no shade on Shannon because of it. I would do things a little bit differently. But props to him for doing what he's doing in terms of getting the interviews. We can parse and compartmentalize and dissect everything else, but he got the interviews that people clearly wanted to see.
Well, just like Tucker Carlson just got an interview with Vladimir Putin. I mean, there are numerous other journalists who wish they had had that opportunity, and they'll tell you they would light into Putin and do this, say this, and ask this, and this and that. The question is why did Putin choose Tucker? Aside from people wanting to label him a Putin supporter or plant or whatever, could it be Putin felt like he based on Tucker's reputation, that he was going to have a platform where he could actually speak and speak freely, not deceptively, but speak freely. Again, you can believe what you want. That's not the point I'm making in that term. All I'm saying is people want to have opportunities to speak, to be heard. Then if you want to come at them and talk all this noise or challenge them on it, challenge them on it. If they're telling the truth, if they're liars, let them be proven liars. If they're telling the truth, let them be proven as truth. But at least create an environment that's going to welcome people to your set, to your show, so that they can feel comfortable sharing what's really on their hearts. Yes, you got people who are going to lie. This word is full of them. We just talked about that. That's what we just said. You got people right now who will not tell on someone they love and care about, or someone they know, once again, as I stated earlier, because of the backlash or the conflict or the confrontation, or they don't want this person to suffer what's going to suffer a certain fate. So, but leaving it in the closet when other folks are coming out the closet, what's hidden in the dark eventually will find its way in the light. That's really what it comes down to. So if you don't want your skeletons to come out, bury them. Don't hide them in the closet. Go and bury them. Okay?
And he may believe, let him speak. It's a conversation. And let the public judge. Me as a professional journalist throughout my career, I might think a bit differently. As it pertains to Cat Williams, God bless you. I hope that you continue to be the great comedian that you are. I hope that you were telling the truth. And I hope that somewhere along the way, there's some level of compassion, because even if there were things done wrong or there were things done against you or things that you didn't like, I think it's safe to say, Cat Williams, that I don't know if anybody out there wanted to or had the intent to hurt you as much as you seem hell-bent on hurting and humiliating them. And that's something for you to think about, because I got mad love and respect for Cat Williams. He's a hell of a talent, and I wish him nothing but the best. Monique, she's brilliant. She's an Oscar winner. She's sensational. What she did in Precious, her phenomenal acting career, her comedic genius. Monique, I don't know if anybody said this to you, but I'm going to say this to you, and I'm going to say it to you out of love. You always say sisters or brothers when you're talking to black people. Well, this is a brother talking to you, Monique. You look very bitter. You look like the light has been stripped from you. I don't know what happened. I'm not going to call you a liar or anything like that. I don't know. I never asked Steve Harvey or Kevin Hart or anybody or Tyler Perry or Oprah Winfrey and all of this other stuff. I never asked. I don't know. But I know that you're telling stories about Oprah. I'm not saying false stories. I don't know. But you're telling one thing about Oprah. You're telling another thing about Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry leaves you a voice message reportedly, and you're airing the message.
Once again, the question is why does she feel the need and or the freedom to air that laundry out for the world to hear and to know? Y'all, there is so much that go on in this world that was really shocked so many people. Stuff that needs to be said. Yeah, for example, y'all know human trafficking is going on, right? How come those conversations aren't being had on a show like this? How come where's the ire for those things? Where's the ire, since we're talking about black people, where's the ire? We talk about tearing each other down. Okay. Why are we gunning each other down? Beating each other down? Robbing each other? Dissing each other? On the down low. People don't want to say anything because they don't want to be called a snitch, as I said earlier. Why aren't there conversations about that? Hey, show me, can we all just get along? Skin color doesn't mean, having the same skin color does not necessarily mean that we're going to get along. Name a family, name a household where one was born into a family and every single person got along. I would love to know about that family. I really would. Blood doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the best family members and love each other. Matter of fact, oftentimes those are the very ones, those in your own household, who will betray you, stab you in the back, or kill you. Those are literal things I'm saying. So just because we have the same skin color, and again, in context, I agree with Stephen A. is saying on that. Because black folks are notorious for tearing each other down. Christians are notorious for tearing each other down too. Probably other religions. I don't consider my belief in God a religion, so my relationship with God is. But anyway, other ethnicities tear each other down. They just do it more discreetly in some cases. But I'm sure if we would take the time to do some historical studies, we'd find the Asians have done each other wrong. The Hispanics have done each other wrong. The Africans have done each other wrong. Black people, Caucasians, y'all have heard the term white trash, right? So I'm not saying to excuse what is, because others do it too. But there are times these conversations must be had. As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 steps that I believe that helps. 1, address it with the individual or individuals that the grievance is against or with. Secondly, if that doesn't work, bring in a mediator. Thirdly, if that doesn't work, basically you get removed from that community, so to speak. That means excommunicated or whatever that is. So all this being quiet stuff, it should have a time limit on it. Now, what that time limit is, that's not my place to say, because I don't know each person or situation of each and everything. That's not my business. But I do know this, there is a time limit. How things get exposed, it happens when it happens.
Well, how can somebody feel comfortable enough ever talking to you if they think that their messages are going to be disseminated to the masses when it was supposed to be a private conversation? You talked about Kevin Hart and how you were supposed, he said, "I love you, sister. We'll talk in 2 weeks." And then after that, you never heard from him again. Okay. Did you play any role in that? I'm just asking. Did you? I don't know. But when you bring these kind of things up and you talk about Oprah, I'm quite sure Oprah ain't perfect. I'm quite sure there are an abundance of people, black, white, and beyond, that have had issues with things that Oprah has done that have negatively affected them. But we all know how much positive Oprah generated for so many of us because she showed us the way in so many ways about how to excel in this industry and in life. Does it have to be that bad? Even after all this time? It's just a question. Something that I want you to think about. Shannon Sharp had Monique and Cat Williams. I'm not looking for those interviews to interrupt his shine. He get his shine, I'll get mine. But that's my dude. And if he comes across as doing something wrong or doing something that people feel that I should be compelled to comment on, that's why I chose to comment. That's my position. I hope y'all can understand and respect it. And if you don't, you don't. But you know where to find me. This ain't the only Stephen A. Smith show you're going to see. I'll be back with more. That's just how I feel about it. And by the way, I don't mean bitter in a literal sense when it comes to Monique. I'm just talking about the look of it all right now. That fire that's still in your belly. I'm looking at you and I see a brilliant talent that has her whole life ahead of her that can still do great things. And to me, Monique is looking like somebody who feels like she's finished and there are people to blame for it. I don't think you're finished. I think you're great. I think you'll be back. I think you'll do great things and I can't wait to see you do them. Hell, I'm trying to produce stuff. I'd love to have Monique in it. Because that's how brilliant of an actress you are, of a talent you are.
I agree again in context what Stephen A is saying, but not specifically to at least this situation or a situation similar to it. And I agree also. We don't know the entire story. We have Monique's story. We have Cat Williams' story. How many other stories out there? We don't hear Oprah speaking up for herself, Tyler Perry speaking up for himself or anything like that. I hadn't heard at the time of this video anyway. So, but I've said my piece. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think there are times when these type of conversations must be had? I was going to say have to be had, but must be had. And you don't have to get personal if you decide to share something in the comments or too personal, but just let me know what you think. Remember to like, subscribe, set your notifications, and share this video. I'll see you next time.